if James Bradberry stays, I want to talk about James Bradberry first because let's focus on the guys who are on the roster first. Zach, James Bradberry makes this team. Do you think that is a reflection of they're paying him anyway, so they might as well have him on the roster? How do you see this? Because it is not like they're desperate for numbers in the secondary.
Yeah.
Bradberry and McCollum make it. Sidney Brown is on PUP. They've got some reinforcements. Why do you think James Bradberry is still here?
I've been trying to think about that, and because I don't think it's purely money. The reality is, if you failed to trade him, and as Jeff McClain reported, that there were conversations about trading him, right? Once you don't trade him, if you cut him or if you keep him, you're paying the financial obligation is the same, right? Because no one's absorbing his salary, so the financial obligation at that point is the same. So I just think that they look at the skill level. They look at like the football intelligence, the character of the player, and they say he's value added to the locker room at this point relative to other options. Like I'm not saying he's going to be on the team in December or January, but I think you feel comfortable, even if the skill level's not the all-pro caliber player, that if he's active in game, that you can put him in a game and it's not too big for him. That said, I don't like the idea of a fourth safety who doesn't play special teams. I think that he could be one of those guys who shuffled out. But I just think that they trust the person, and I think that had to factor into it.
Fred, I mean, look at the roster. How many people are going to have to go down for James Bradberry to get on the field?
I would say it's probably 3, right? I would imagine that he's going to be 4th in the pecking order at safety. That would be Maddox. It would be the first guy off the bench, and then it would be James until Sidney Brown is back from PUP. To me, where it kind of turned for my opinion on James Bradberry in terms of his prospects at making the team, guys, was I want to say it was a couple weeks ago. It was right after I was no longer at practice every single day. And so I'm soaking up as many interviews as possible, all the press conferences. And I want to say it was 2 weeks ago. It might've been right after the New England game where Vic Fangio, who, guys, look, every press conference we've seen from Vic Fangio, he has been extremely honest, and sometimes brutally so, right? And we appreciate that. And Vic Fangio said, like, James Bradberry has done a nice job, and it hasn't all been perfect, obviously. There have been some moments, but even then, like, I went back through the film. It was of that New England game, right? Bo, that was the one where you were like, I'm not sure.
I thought that was like a disqualifying performance, but you tell me what you saw.
Well, to me, there are a couple of the things that he had in the past game. I didn't see those as physical things. I saw them as like, his eyes were in the wrong place. And again, this is a guy that's converting to a new position.
The one when Hooper runs by him.
To me, that was it. Hey, his eyes were in the backfield a little bit longer than they should have been. I didn't see that as, oh man, Hooper ran right by him and he had no chance of catching up. I saw that as, all right, like, that's a teachable moment for a guy that's moving to safety, playing there for the first time, getting his first handful of reps at that position in game. So for me, I looked at Bradberry as a guy I felt like was going to make it. When I said that yesterday on the show, cosplaying as Vic, but I do feel like going in, if I had submitted a 53-man roster for the King and Queen of the Beats competition, I would have had Bradberry on the 53.
I will say I do think that, and Jeff said this in his reporting, I don't think that it's guaranteed that he's here for long. And Howie Roseman also sort of talked around this in the press conference when he was asked about it, Zach. If you think about it just from a process standpoint, if you are expecting to make an addition or two, you don't want the person you then waive to be somebody who is on the roster unexpectedly, right? Because then you're signaling to the league, who may not have known that this guy was worthy of a roster spot, that he is, and he's worth a claim. This is the original sin of the Casey Toohill, mistake, right?
Of course.
So if this is if you're then going to cut James Bradberry, it sort of makes sense. What did Howie say about Nick about Bradberry, Zach?
Yeah, basically that he's converting to a new position, that safety is not corner, but that they like what they've seen from him this summer. That's kind of that was Howie's big emphasis, is that he always had good football instincts. You see the ability to diagnose from those football instincts. And he says he's got a skill set. When you hear his skill set, that's sometimes like, all right, I don't have anything more to say. He's got a skill set, right? But he says it's a long season. We already know that he's had tremendous success in the league playing outside corner as well. With the goal we have for this football team, having a veteran player like that on the roster that we know we can rely on when called upon, we felt like that was important. So that's kind of, my analysis there in terms of the default being someone that they know, someone that they trust, even if the upside is minimal at this point. You know, if you have to put him into a game, you at least know the player. And I think that's probably no, I agree with what you said, Bo. I think he could be one of the first ones out here if they get their claim. They're what 22 on the waiver claim. So you don't know who's going to fall to you. Now, if you sign someone who was cut, who's a vested veteran, then you don't have to worry about that. I'm not even saying that, but you know, it could be an offensive lineman, right? But yeah, I really look at it like if you have to go into a game tomorrow, you at least know James Bradberry can play.
We all silly like the mayor.